So real talk time, because why not, right? That's what life is about. Which I'm all about staying in your lane and all that, but I'm also big on speaking your mind as appropriate. Because here's the thing, folks. My entire life, I stayed quiet. My entire life, I allowed people to walk all over me. My entire life, I acquiesced to and downplayed my opinions or dismissed them in the effort to keep the peace, whether it was at a job, in my family. And I just saw this quote on Instagram that said, "Let's normalize canceling mean girls." And you know, the woman was like, let's stop trying to be mean or something. Go eat food, go outside, take PTO, you know, don't be the mean girl. And I'm just like, bro, if anything, I need to be a lot bitchier than I am, because, you know, I've dealt with so much shit in the past 6 years of my life, getting almost wrongfully terminated at jobs that I did nothing wrong at. Being lied about, gossiped about, slandered, bless you, Bonnie, tricked, scammed, duped, betrayed. And through that whole time, I've smiled. The whole time I smiled. Bless you, Boober. Good Lord. The whole time I just sat back and smiled. I never once stood up for myself. Not once. There comes a point when the nice girl, the good girl, not necessarily cracks, but stops tolerating bullshit. And suddenly, when you start establishing boundaries in your life, right? Because let's discuss boundaries. You can have rigid boundaries or you can have really porous boundaries. There's a book that I have about that. It's like Set Boundaries and Find Peace or something like that. And I realized that my boundaries were super, super porous. And when you think of a sponge, when it has all these pores, water seeps through it, right? And what does that look like? That looks like, I'll give a good example. Hey, I need your help on the weekend. Hey, can you provide no, this is what used to happen to me years ago. Hey, I have when I was working in child life therapy years ago, not recently, when I first got into the field, or even not even child life therapy, try like when I was a waitress, 2017, 2018, whatever. Hey, I have my boyfriend's, mind you, these are from women that I never was friends with. These are servers that I wasn't close to. Hey, my boyfriend's having a get-together on Saturday and I really want to have the day off. Is it okay if you cover my shift, Ashley? I know that you're like an excellent server and I know you love, oh, yeah, sure. Lizzie or whatever their name was. Because I did not want to be mean, right? So even though, you know, it was, or Saturday morning, hey, can you work Saturday morning? And I wanted my Saturday morning off, you know? Or let's say I was teaching yoga at 10 a.m. at Burn Boot Camp, and they wanted me to do a shift Saturday morning. And I slowly but surely, I said, you know what, Ashley, you matter. And you can say no to these people. It's not going to be at the end of the world if you tell this girl no, because really, she doesn't really care about you. She's just trying to get her shift covered because she wants to go to her boyfriend's get together. The best ones was when they give money associated to it. Hey, I'll pay you whatever amount of money if you cover my shift. I would say, I don't want your money. I just, you know, I'm there to help you. Or even in child life, I've had it. Hey, can you cover a procedure for me? I gotta go do this thing or whatever. Can you take this patient? Can you go see this one? And it was like the easier of the, not the complex cases, but just like the, very bring a toy to the kid, not high urgency stuff. And I didn't take it like an offense to it. I was a newer child life specialist, but I also wasn't a dingbat, because when you're the nice girl and you're not a bitch, right? When you're the nice girl and you're the, like, I did a video on this, does it pay to be kind, because when you're kind and you're like, oh, when you're like the character from Enchanted, I even had a coworker once when I worked at Gusto Fino when I was 17, I was a server. He told me, he's like, oh my God, you remind me so much of Giselle from Enchanted. She's always like, ah, ha, 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 like happy and singing to birds. And I'm like, yeah, I do love birds and I do like to sing. He's like, that's so you. And I'm like, is that supposed to be a good thing or a bad thing? Because I am that type of person who will, like, that is who I am. Like, I will literally, like, when I see a finch bird on the street, I'm like, oh, how cute the little bird. That's like my personality. And, it doesn't really bode well in human world with people because it's looked at as weird and like childish and, not adult-like behavior. And I don't know, sometimes I just really relate better to animals than to people, because animals don't hurt you, they don't talk shit about you, they don't make fun of you, they don't lie about you or scapegoat you. They're just there, just like dogs. They love you unconditionally. And it's really interesting, I've noticed the moment you start establishing boundaries and you call people out on their shit, how you become the villain in their story. Like, you can go through a bunch of shit and you decide to say, hey, no, I don't really want to do that. Or I don't agree with that. Or my view is different than yours. Maybe politically, religiously, whatever. And then you're suddenly the bitch. When you start speaking your truth and you start standing in your power and you start saying, hey, I love myself. I'm proud of myself. Round of applause, pat on the back when no one else tells you that. And you start standing up for yourself, and overcoming adversity. You're either like, people think you're the Jezebel devil, or you're doing voodoo witchcraft magic, or you're just insanely lucky. And then people get jealous of that luck. And you're like, well, I follow the rules. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't steal. In the words of Tim McGraw, I try to give back when I can to people. I don't cut corners. I don't kiss ass. I try not to, because people could misconstrue being like overly nice to brown nosing and whatever, and I try not to do that. I do take pride in my appearance. Like before gang stalking and targeting, I did take pride in my appearance, and I was very into like wearing pretty bows in my hair and like, because I worked with kids, and it's like, God forbid a woman, takes pride in herself, not from an egotistical standpoint or a sense of arrogance, but just like, like if you love yourself. Like, there's a song by Meghan Trainor, she's like, I forget, if I were you, I'd want to be me too. It was like, it's a really sassy song. And then there's like, I don't know, there's a lot of songs about like self-confidence and empowerment and whatnot, and I'm not going to apologize for ever again for setting boundaries, because I think because I had really weak, porous boundaries, I became a target for some people. I had a therapist once who said, bullies pick on people because they know that they won't fight back. And I did get picked on by a bunch of people. Did I stoop low and pick on them? No. I could very easily make fun of a bunch of things about those people that I'm not going to say. Because why am I going to do that? That makes me just as horrible as them. But no, I have no shame in speaking my truth. Because my truth was stifled. it's deplorable what happened to me. Even just now, I ate some food, I ate some rice, and I literally, like, I don't know what was in it, but I feel like, and I have a headache right now, and I don't know how anyone could get into a box of rice from a grocery store. Go figure. But you know, it is what it is. You do the best you can, right? And I realize people that are narcissists, they never take accountability for their actions. For someone who's authentic and whatever, they have no problem admitting defeat or admitting their faults or their mistakes, but a narcissist will go to their grave saying that they're right, or that they're the one who was wronged, and or or putting a certain persona out for the world to see. And it's funny because I never thought I'd be doing this YouTube thing where I'd be like sharing about my personal life, and I am one of the most private people. I coveted my privacy. I really did. And now I'm out here talking about sex and all this other stuff. But you know what? I guess I was meant to, because at the end of the day, my story is really unique. I'm not your average, like, 34-year-old woman at all. The things that interest most people at my age don't interest me, and that's okay. I used to have a lot of issues with that, because I didn't fit in. I don't fit in. I see it when I walk in the streets, Chicago. I look at the people that are like my age. Like, I would have more fun talking to someone that's like 80, like, about their past experiences, growing up when they did in their time, or in their 70s, or, I love big band jazz, swing, swing music, like Ella Fitzgerald and stuff like that. But I also love salsa and hip hop and reggaeton and whatever. But, my soul feels at peace. Maybe it's because who knows, maybe I had a past life in like the 1940s or something. But I enjoy that more, like that kind of jazz music. I really love stationery. Like, I could literally live in a stationery store or Barnes and Noble if I could. Like, that's my thing. And I know it's some other people's things too, but like, it's rare, I think more people would prefer in their 30s to be out with the girls and like, woo! I don't know. I'm not that woo. I mean, I don't know. Like, maybe if I found the right people to hang out with, maybe once in a while going to like a bar or whatever. I just, even like in dates and stuff, when they're like, oh, we'll go get drinks, I'm like, yeah, I can't have a drink unless it's with food. I can't do it. I just can't. I'm too much of a, like, I don't throw back beers. I wish. That would be really cool. Those women that like drink beer from the bottle and they're like, I can't do that. I'd prefer staying home and bake cookies. If I had cats, I'd probably have cats with me on the stovetop. Well, not touching the stovetop, but like on the countertop. I would bake cookies and, I don't know, watch like rom-coms and play board games. Like, that's more my speed than like, I don't know. I just don't do what other people, and it's like, that's looked at as weird. And then I also don't really smoke weed and stuff. I'm not really into smoking weed. I will be honest, I do think it would be good for PTSD, for like, if I did CBD or something like that, but like, or maybe even ketamine in like a safe space with a licensed professional. But I don't do like recreational cannabis. I know a lot of people do. I don't do that. I'm not going to judge people who do that, by the way, because if it helps you calm down, as long as you're not addicted to it, like anything, then I don't think that if you go out and you smoke I used to be like super like, no, thou shalt not smoke, but the fact that it's getting legalized everywhere, I don't really. Just you have to be careful though, because I think some of that stuff is kind of laced with other stuff, like fentanyl and scary stuff. So, what else? Yeah, like I realized the other day, I said this, like, I don't have any high heels. I have no high heels at all. I have no boots. You know how women have thigh-high boots? You know, like the ones that go up to your knee that look super sexy and whatnot. I don't have any dresses that are, like, super tight. That would be like an alter ego if I ever had that. But, I do have lingerie. I will say that. I think that's the most scandalous thing about me, is owning lingerie, which is not that scandalous when you think about it, because, like, that's a normal thing for women to have, is lingerie and stuff. But going back to what I was saying about boundaries, it's interesting though. You suddenly become, in Spanish, la tóxica, or the toxic person, when you finally, and then the same thing in dating too, like when you finally are like, no, but I don't want to just like, I don't want to be your hookup person. Like, I did that. I did the hook, like when I was doing my sexual exploratory phase, or whatever you want to call it, which was a little bit later in life for me, which is fine. Everyone has their, like, you know, their time that they go through stuff. I was just a late bloomer. But, you know, when you start valuing yourself, and you start demanding respect for yourself, you know, self-respect. And what does that look like? That looks like choosing yourself. That looks like, hey, no, I appreciate the invite, but I don't really know you that well, so I prefer to talk to you first and get to know you, and then once we've established some sort of foundation and rapport, and I know that you're not catfishing me, and I can kind of tell your intentions, then maybe we can meet up for coffee, or for, I don't even know if I can have coffee at this point. We can meet up for, I don't know, a walk in the park. And if you tell a guy, oh, because a guy that just wants to, you know, wham bam, thank you ma'am, hook up with you, you know, make out with you, and there's nothing, you know, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, or like a, you know, what's it called, like a, how do I say this? Like, I'm all for sex positivity. I think if you practice safe sex, and you meet someone who you jive well with, and you have, you know, mutual understanding, and you have, you know, boundaries and a safe word and whatever, I think, you know, just to each his own, you know. But for the most part, I decided for me that I don't want to engage in just frivolous, casual hookups. I mean, at 34, like, if you're in your 40s and you're like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna go hook up, like, no. I don't really think that that's, like, I don't know. I would hope that people at like 40 or like 35 would be like, you know what? I've seen videos of like younger men, like in their like 26, 27 or 25, and they're like, I want to be the man that, like, I want to be a husband one day. And there was this one guy who literally was like learning how to cook. So he's like, for my future wife, I can be this person, you know. And that's the truth. You have to make yourself into that, right? You have to ask yourself, do you want to date you? Would you date you? I mean, I think I would. I mean, I have all the other stuff going on with the stupid stuff, and it's kind of scary, you know, especially with foods and stuff. Like, I literally have, like, been going through the weirdest shit of my life with, like, food getting tampered with and water getting tampered with. And I can't do anything about that at all. But you know what? You do the best that you can, and that's it. But I'm not going to apologize anymore at all for establishing boundaries and choosing myself and demanding self-respect. That's not toxica. That's not villainous. That's just self-respect. So if just to say, I'm sorry if you hear the sirens going off in the background. If my boundaries bother you, if my words, if my candidness, if my truth bothers you, then that means that there's something that is truthful about what I'm saying, because it hits close to home for you as a person. Because I don't know who's watching my channel. I don't know who's watching the videos that I'm making. But yeah, I was treated like dirt, and I let people walk all over me. I just stayed silent. When I needed people the most, I got neglected. When I needed support legally, I got shunned. When I went into a precinct and I said, hey, I'm scared, and I had tears in my eyes, bawling my eyes out, I got eye rolls. So, to be quite frank, I do not feel bad about standing up for myself anymore. And I'm not toxica. I'm not gonna play the victim. You become indifferent. You also become desensitized to it. Nothing phases you anymore. You have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. But it is amazing when you start establishing boundaries in your life, and, you know, certain men start to leave your life if you're dating, you know, and whatnot, because you're no longer the fun girl that they can manipulate, you know, and trick into doing things. You become smart, you know. And the same thing for jobs too, you know. When I was at jobs, I used to literally get asked to do things, like even as a server, especially in server life. When you're a server, like I was like asked by managers, hey, can you take this table, and I learned that I was getting dumped the tables that were like other people didn't want, and I said, Ashley, you deserve better than that. You know, you come on time, you're an excellent server, you put in maximum effort, you deserve to be treated like that. We accept or tolerate what we think we're deserving of. And I used to think I wasn't deserving. Like I used to think I was like down here. And the same thing goes with God. Like I didn't think I was deserving, especially while being targeted. I didn't think I deserved a relationship. I didn't think I deserved true friendship. And I told myself, I go, Ashley, let's say you weren't the one targeted, let's say you were the friend, and you heard someone going through something hard, you would be right there at their beck and call. Immediately. When I had one of my friends, when she had a miscarriage back in Miami, and we were like work friends or whatever, and we got along famously like really well, and she had a miscarriage, and I put a care package together. I found out what hospital she was at, and I respected her time, but I did everything I could for her to honor the memory of her of her daughter that she had. And I didn't push to see her. I just said, here, I created a care package for you, and I hope your boyfriend are okay, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And I gave her time and her space. Because that's what friends do. That's what friends are for. You know. And I don't remember if she was the one. There was a friend, I can't remember who it was. There was another friend I had that we kind of lost touch. I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was her or another one. But there was a time where I was going through a lot of scary stuff, and I needed a form of support from someone. And I don't know if it was her. I think it was someone else. But I remember I was in New Jersey, and I was in a shop, and I can't remember what friend it was, but we lost touch, and that was really disappointing to me. And I was trying to do everything to try to revive it and salvage it. And I remember I was in this little gift shop in Cape May, New Jersey, and looking at all these little trinkets in this like spiritual store, and I saw this like cute quote that was like, oh, we're gonna be the friends in the nursing home, like dancing with our walkers. And I don't know if I sent that to her or something. I can't remember which friend it was that I had, and I was just, and my heart kind of twinged because it was like, you know, like I had a little like, because I was like, should I text it to this person or whatever, and you know, but I was the kind of person where I definitely not toxica, like at all. There was another friend, the same one actually, when she had a baby shower, I did a whole baby shower for her at her job, at our job or whatever, and you know, I had everyone pitch in to do these custom cookies at one of our bussers. He'd like to do baking on the side, so I had him, like secretly I paid him money to like create these custom cookies for like a little baby shower, and we all celebrated. That's the kind of person I am. And so now that I finally decide to, you know, finally establish some sort of boundaries in my life, whether that be as a person that's been targeted or gang stalked or whatever, and you know, you suddenly become the villain in a lot of people's stories because they skew the narrative to fit how they want it to be. But they never considered your side, right? It was always their side, my way or the, you know, or the highway. It's, oh, Ashley's bad with money. She doesn't know financial literacy. No, not true. Oh, she's a prostitute. She's a whore because she had an OnlyFans at one point. Nope, I did that because I was probably sexually groomed into it because, or not even groomed, I just didn't have a choice. I honestly thought that was like boudoir photos. I never thought it was like nudes and almost pornography. You know, I call porn, you know. That's just because I like to, in a lighthearted way, you know. So I didn't look at it like sex work. I looked at it like taking, you know, cute like pictures and whatnot. And I liked lingerie, especially for being someone who's really modest in the world. Like when I present myself to the world and when I'm out in public, I will never show my tetas. I will never show cleavage as long as I live. I will never show my butt crack. I will never show a thong peeking out of my underwear. I will never, I'm very much a lady. But what I do in the privacy of my own home in my spare time is my business. But like, I carry myself with what I comport myself with grace. And I know they say the lady in the street but a freak in the sheets. I'm not going to get into it. But like, when you're out in public, the image that you portray, the impression, I mean, that's to me is important, you know, because you never know who you're going to meet out in public, right? But I do comport myself in a way that I would say is more ladylike than anything, you know, but people will have their narratives, right? Oh, she's attention seeking. She's, the whole goody two-shoes girl is a fake thing. Nope, that's real. That is, I'm not a good, I used to get really annoyed when in high school I used to be called the goody two-shoes, and I'm like, I mean, it's better that than like, oh, she's a bitch, you know? Like, it's better to be the goody two-shoes nice girl than oh, she's a bitch. No. Oh, she's too Christian. Yeah, well, my faith has gotten me through a bunch of shit. When I didn't have anyone else, I had God and Christ, so I can't complain about that. Who would complain about having one of the most mightiest powers in the universe backing you up and protecting you? No one would complain about that. Divine spiritual protection? I'd rather choose divine spiritual protection than having 50 million friendships or fake friendships. I'd rather have divine spiritual favor and blessing over my life and protection than have 10 fake friends or a shitty boyfriend, you know. And I'm not joking when I say I've walked the path alone. You know, when it's Saturday night, like today's Friday, you know, it's getting probably soon at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. You know, the streets will be filled of Chicago with people waiting at the door of a, you know, and that's some people's thing. That's what they like to do. If you give me a cup of tea, I watch, you know, not How I Met Your Mother. If I watch, I don't know, New Girl, Gilmore Girls, I'll probably do that tonight, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not tea, but like, I haven't had tea in a while. Or like, I used to drink a lot of hot cocoa or hot chocolate. Because it's just so good for it has theobromine. Theobromine helps relax the brain and neurotransmitters and stuff. It's like really soothing. Matcha tea I've never really had, but like hot chocolate is really good. But I'm the kind of person I'd rather stay, unless I met like a really amazing guy who was like really amazing and planned like a really, not super expensive, I don't need anything expensive, but like a, you know, like a fun, like, I don't know, Lincoln Park Zoo, or like, I've been wanting to go mini golfing for a while. I would love to learn how to do golf. I think that'd be a fun date. It would be a really long date, actual like golf. But that's more like that would be a fun Friday, or like going to a wine tasting. I'm not really into like but it's funny though, because I like EDM music, and EDM culture is like, you know, like drugs and stuff like that. That's not really my thing. So, but anyways, going back to this idea of boundaries, you know, if you are like me, if you're like the chronic people pleaser and you don't want to piss people off, and you know, and then people will talk shit about you because they don't like you, or they want to find some ish about you, because when people can't find anything about you, they make up stuff about you. I've learned this. When they can't find anything about you, they'll talk shit. Oh, she's too skinny. Oh, she wants attention, and that's why she does you know, she did whatever this. I don't even know anymore. Anyways, if you are someone like me and you feel like you're a chronic people pleaser, meaning like you will downplay your wants and needs in order to make other people happy or to keep the peace, it's not worth it. If I can go back in time, oh my God, if I can go back in time and tell myself what I know now, I would say what people think in middle school doesn't matter. You're not going to know you're not going to talk to people from high school. You know, I used to think high school was like, oh my God, not to say I worship the ground that people walked on, but I thought people were so much cooler and better than me. And they're just people. They're all doing their own thing, you know. People are married, they probably have kids or will have kids, and you know, you're just an afterthought. We're all just afterthoughts. You know, some people stick together from high school and college, but more often than not, you carry on and you do your own thing. And I used to give so much credence and relevance to things, man. You know, you end up wasting time focusing on people that probably won't give two shits, you know. And you want to know why I say this? So a few months ago, when I started doing this YouTube thing more avidly and frequently, there was a vlog that I did that was basically like asking for help, you know. And I was very scared, very distraught, because I was, and I still feel at times, been exposed to really scary phenomena like being drugged or poisoned. And those are not things I don't say that frivolously. I would never come on the internet and be like, oh, and the thing is, no one was doing anything about it. No, someone thinks it's justified, you know. Someone does, because I know that, and I'm not a forensic investigator or a forensic psychologist or a criminologist. I'm not a chemist or scientist or a researcher, like biomedical researcher. I'm just a plain Jane everyday, run-of-the-mill person. And when you feel like your human rights and your privacy is violated, and there's nothing you can do about it, it is the most daunting and harrowing feeling. You develop like learned helplessness. That's a term in psychology. If you don't know what it is, you can look it up. You basically, through lived experiences, repeated experiences in which you experience not being inept, but like not getting like the follow through that you need, or the assistance or support that you need, whether it be like emotionally or physically, you start to develop learned helplessness. You start to recognize and identify yourself as being helpless. So essentially it's like this victimology type of cycle, a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will, that, oh, I'm helpless, I can't get but anyways, it was maybe, I don't know how many months ago, maybe like 2 months ago, or several weeks ago, maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. And I did a YouTube thing, and I was very candid, and I had my phone here, and I was in my pajamas. I was in like a lacy top, I think it was my purple top. And I was very scared. I've learned to help, like I've learned to overcome it better, and the more I'm exposed to it, sounds bad, and if it is drugs and whatever, I don't know, because still to this day I wonder what the heck is going on. I still don't know. I'm in the dark about things. I pray to God, and I go, please God, Lord God, protect me. Christ Jesus, let your light shine through me. Holy Spirit, fill me with every breath I take. And I say, the Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me. And I know it sounds super religious. For the people out there that are not super religious, I get it. I'm not going to push Jesus on you. I'm not going to do that. When people come up to me and they're like, you need to adopt Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, I'm like, I get it. I'm like, trust me. But I don't like to push religion on people, because it becomes fanatical at that point. It doesn't even become like a coping thing, like where it becomes like a very pushy, like I don't do that. I don't even rely. I look at my relationship with God or religion is very much not like a guy on a scepter who's like, thou shalt not, like Gandalf, thou shalt not pass, or whatever, I look at that as like a divine being, a source energy of like love and light that permeates throughout all existence. And there's this kind of, if you're more into like agnosticism, it's kind of like this unseen, not like amorphous or unidentifiable force that exists that we can't really, it's just light, and I imagine Christ being the way that he was depicted, in biblical times or what have you, and with the beard, and like Jonathan Rumi, like we can maybe think of that, but like I like to think of that as like a historical figure, someone who really sacrificed himself for the greater good of humanity, a beacon of hope and light in a time there was because even in biblical times, like when they did the show, The Chosen, they showed, all the different points, and like when he flipped over the tables, when they were using, he says, my father's house of worship, for tax collecting and whatnot. So, Jesus even got angry, because it's one of the most loving human beings you could have on the planet, got pissed too, and rightfully so. Because humans, we can be selfish creatures. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, there was the video that I did, and I was very distraught, and I was very scared, and I reached out to probably like everybody that I knew in my life. So imagine 34 years of life. You meet a lot of people. I'm talking elementary school, middle school, high school, college, workforce. And then after that, family, like extended family that I really haven't talked to that much, but, and I'm not going to bash my family. I don't want to do that on YouTube. That's just something, but I will say that the response that I got from some other family members, I didn't really, I expected something different. I guess because if I was, if the shoe was on the other, if I was not the receiving end, but if someone came to me that was my niece or my nephew or my granddaughter or, 6 degrees of separation type of thing, I would say, I don't know, I'm different. I would open my doors without a shadow. I mean, logistics, there's things that you have to work through, right? Like you have to say, okay, how long are you going to stay here for? Are you going to, what's your game plan? Do you have a job? Are you looking for work? Like, well, tell me, but without a shadow of a doubt. In fact, I had a grandmother, an abuela. I think she's my great grandmother. I don't know if her name's if it's Remedios or I can't remember her name. It might be Remedios or something. But she actually had a homeless shelter in Miami where she cooked vegan food for men and women that were homeless. And I remind myself, so if she's in my lineage, not by blood, but like she's then I go, that speaks to more who I am. Because if I could do that, I would. But it's pretty amazing. It's a sad day when you're experiencing heartache and tragedy and betrayal and fear and all this stuff. And I reached out to so many people. And these are people, mind you, I didn't have any beef with these people. I was nice. I was cordial with them. And I either didn't get a reply back. And these are people at one point, I was like in middle school, like I was good friends with them. With their parents. I went to their house. I mean, I knew their siblings and, and I take it back. There were a few people in high school, 1 or 2 actually, that wrote back to me. And it goes to show you the people that you least expect to come through for you. I mean, they didn't have like obviously space, for me to stay with them, but they responded back and they showed some sort of empathy. Majority of the people that I spoke to, sorry, 3 people. I take it back, 3 people. The other people I reached out to, they were parents and they were the parents of kids I babysat for. So they actually, some of them did follow through. I take it back, some followed through. But other ones did not. And that was shocking. That was very telling. Never did anything mean to anybody. But again, for the sake of self-preservation, I think if things don't directly benefit us in some way, we're very prone or very apt to cast aside or not give any, relevance or like care. And that's really sad. So when I was at my lowest and still at my my lowest point, waiting for someone to extend, a helping hand. And here's the thing, it's like almost like people, I feel like if I could read the energy right now, it's like almost like people were upset that I bounced back from adversity. It's almost like, but we did all this stuff. We slandered her name. We ruined her character. We took away her career and her job and her friends, and it's hard for her to date. And I go, but I matter. So because I choose to persevere in the face of adversity and I choose to be resilient, I'm now the villain? Because I choose to establish boundaries and I start focusing on myself and I love myself, I'm suddenly the villain. But I did everything right. I don't talk poorly about my fellow man. I try not to judge people that look different than me, that dress different than me. I used to, as a kid growing up, I used to be very judgmental. I used to think that I was like, oh, I'm so much better, because I'm a Christ-like person. No. We're all trying on this journey we call life. Literally, there's a quote that's like, we're all, you know, what was it, meat carcasses floating on a rock in space. You know, it's true though. But the moment you start demanding authenticity from people and you start choosing yourself and you're like, no, I don't want to be your hookup buddy, you know, I want a spouse, I want a partner, I want someone, I know I don't want to be your side chick. No, I don't want to be your plaything. I don't want to be your option. I don't want to be, you know, your swinger. I don't want to be, I don't know. I don't want, you know, I don't want to be your third person. No, I don't want a part-time friendship. You know, I want a real friendship, you know, not when it's convenient for you, but when it's reciprocal, when it's mutual for both people, in terms of platonic stuff. Or no, I don't want to work that schedule, sir or ma'am, because, you know, I have commitments and things that I, you know, before in the past, like when I did volunteering at the hospital, or, you know, I did something that I had previous engagements for, like teaching yoga, and for bosses, that doesn't really bode well with them, but it's, you know, you have to stand up for yourself because no one else will. I hate to break it to people, but if I went 34 years and I reached out to almost every single person I knew, and in fact, one of them, I was really shocked. One of them was a classmate, and he gaslit me. And this was a classmate that, like, was very, like, almost like, I don't know, he was a very bright light in high school, and he was very, like, unique and eccentric and talented. But even him, like, he didn't really know my story, and he automatically assumed, oh, I don't know what you're, and he sent me a clip of a woman that had an eating disorder, and I go, I don't have an eating disorder, I don't know why you sent me that. And that's where the gaslighting and stuff like that, because it wasn't, and that's another thing I want to mention too, for people that were like, oh, she has an eating disorder. I fucking love food. I'm a Yelp elite member. Like, I get, not recruited, but like every year I have to do X amount of, you know, reviews to hold the Yelp elite status, and there's a bunch of Yelp eliters out there. Shout out to Yelp elite people. They'll get it. They understand. It's the people taking pictures of the food and you do the reviews after. But because I had a very scary situation where my drink was spiked in Indiana, and I had other food that I think was also tampered with, and water and stuff, I got very scared to eat. I got traumatized because I was afraid that I was going to get drugged. Because I felt very off. Very, very off. I mean, I was terrified. My eyes, when I drank the soda from McDonald's one day, my eyes went blurry. I had double vision. My mouth went numb. I couldn't feel my mouth. I couldn't talk. My stomach turned into a knot and froze. My hand went rigid. I couldn't move my hand. So I don't know if it was Botox or if it was ketamine. I don't know what it was, but I had a very bad reaction to whatever it was, and it's very scary. And I remember I had chicken as well one day, and I baked the chicken, and I didn't think anything of it. There was a hole in the bag because it was frozen chicken from the grocery store, but there was a tiny hole at the bottom. I don't know why, but there was, and I shouldn't have ignored it. And I let all when I thawed out the chicken, I let all because it was a really good deal. It was like $5 or something, or I don't know if it was $5 or $10 for like all these chicken breast pieces. And they were frozen, so I didn't know. When I let them thaw out in the sink, the juice of the stuff came out through the hole, and I'm like, why is there like juice coming? And I was like, oh, fuck it. I was like, whatever. And then that chicken, I'll never forget when I had it, I felt so tired. I felt like I took a sedative, like a horse tranquilizer. And I remember just lying down on the couch, and I was like, I need to take some sleep. And I slept for like, I don't know how long, and I woke up at like midnight or 1 a.m. the following morning. So shit is real. You know, it's not a joke. And if I probably tested my urine or something like that. I didn't have a test kit at the time, but if I had bought one, I probably would have tested positive for either GHB, which is rufenilol. I don't know to say it, to pronounce it. And fentanyl's pretty powerful. I don't know, they give fentanyl as it's an opioid, but they give that to babies in the NICU. I remember when I worked in the NICU, you could only do 0.1 micro, you can do 1 mcg or 1 microgram, because it is so detrimental for anybody. And I don't know how people do this recreationally. I have no clue, but it can kill you, so yeah. So because of that, I was afraid to eat. And during this whole time, when I was in the apartment downstairs, I would literally be going through Uber Eats, and I was like, I was like, please, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And there are people who enjoy doing that to people, terrorizing people, I just remind myself that I am good, I am kind, I do the right thing, I can do hard things. Right now, I had to throw out some of the rice that I had from Trader Joe's, because I'm telling you, I don't know what, I felt very funky just now after having, and it was the rice specifically, because everything else I've been eating, it was okay, but the rice made me, weird. I don't know how to describe it. And I don't want to bash Trader Joe's, because I love Trader Joe's. But my point is in saying all this is that, if people start leaving your life, if people start removing or extricating themselves from your life, be grateful for that, because that means that they really didn't care about you and that they didn't have your best interests at heart. It's a lot harder for people that lack authenticity to look someone in the eye and say, hey, I'm sorry, or hey, yeah, I fucked up. Or just to be plain on, in fact, what's interesting? There was a guy, I'll never forget, it was on Tinder. Handsome guy, cute. And I actually told him, I was like, thank you for your honesty. I told him, I was like, thank you for your, he actually said, and he told me, he's like, he was traveling, and he said he's on a, business work trip. And I said, you're not married, are you? And he goes, oh, yes. He's like, I am very married. And I go, ha, 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 funny. And he's like, no. He goes, you really don't think? And I go, you're not married. And he said, yeah. And I go, does she know? And he goes, well, we don't have the best relationship. She doesn't want to sleep with me, or we don't have sex anymore. And I'm like, and then I went into therapist mode, and I'm not a therapist, but I was like, no, we can't have that. I was like, you need to go woo her. I'm like, go seduce her, and he's like, yeah, but I want to see you. I want to talk to you. And I'm like, but no, that's infidelity. I was like, you can't do that. I was like, but think of your wife. I was like, think about your wife. And I literally went full therapist mode. I was like, but remember when you got together? Remember, and he's like, what if I ask for a divorce tomorrow? I'm like, he's like, would then you consider seeing me? And I was like, no. I was like, no, but I told him, I was like, thank you for your honesty though, I was like, that was really refreshing, because usually a lot of men will never say the truth. They'll bypass the truth. And I told him, I was like, thank you so much. I was like, you're like one of the few men who actually and then with the men who are dishonest, who have girlfriends or wives or whatever, or maybe boyfriends if they're bisexual, those are the worst kind, because they will do everything in their power to try to hide their situation, But it all comes out eventually, especially, and if you're like me, if you have intuitive hunches, there's no way. You can't hide it. And then it's gonna be really bad when like it blows up in their face, and then, because then their girlfriend will have contempt for them, and then if they try to paint me out as like the person that was trying to get between them because they want to cover their ass, then I'm suddenly the villain, like, oh, this bitch who's obsessed with my husband or whatever. And I'm like, no, bitch. I'm like, no, I advocated for you to be together, not for the opposite. I'm not trying to home wreck marriages. I'm trying to forge them. That's why I want to become a licensed marriage and family counselor in the future. I want to help bridge families together so that they can stay together, because ultimately when you have cohesion and you have harmony, then you have more like a healthy family unit dynamic. Because also kids, if there's kids involved, it's known scientifically, like research shows that kids do better when there's a 2-parent home. They cope better with life circumstances when there's 2 parental figures in the family unit together. They do better. And when not just like in a co-parenting divorce sense, but like when there's love, mutual love and respect and support, where both parties are like and truly in love with each other, and then they have their kids and they work together for the common good of like trying to help their children. So but boundaries to me it's important. And I wish, man, like I'm just starting to scratch the surface of this now, because like years ago, like I was so afraid to say no. I was so afraid to stand up for myself. And after having gone through this stuff, like being bullied and cyberbullied and gang stalked or targeted or whatever you want to call it, standing up for yourself is so hard. Because like, number one, you can get killed. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Like, when you speak up or you speak out against it, you can get killed. Because the people facilitating it and doing it, they've been doing it, I guess, for years, and they want to keep doing it, and if you speak up against the status quo, and you're liable to getting killed. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. But I told myself, I don't want this to be the end of my story. I don't want to lose my life. Because there's some things I've been exposed to, like drugs and stuff like that I don't do. I don't have a drug dealer on speed dial. I don't have any plugs, So, forgive me if I set a boundary with you, it's probably because you deserved it. I only cut people out of my life unless, I'm pretty good about giving people chances. I'm too good, because I give someone like 3 chances. When, Maya Angelou says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But I always think people have the ability to change, and that I could maybe influence them to make better decisions and to treat, you can't do that. But I am no longer going to apologize for setting boundaries with people. Time is really precious on this earth, and you're only allotted one life as you. And you want to surround yourself with people who are positive, uplifting, encouraging, motivating, whether it's the same sex or opposite sex. Women should be championing each other, not looking at each other as competition. Men should not be looking as women as prizes or, pieces of meat or a notch on their belt or a game to play. That's so low. It's so petty. To be in your late 20s and be like, hey, mamacita. No, like, I don't have the time for that. Respectfully, I really don't have the time for that. Time is very finite and limited, and no one's ever guaranteed tomorrow. So you want to make sure that you sincerely do surround yourself. Check your social circle. Every single person you have in your life is a direct reflection of who you are, of your morals, your values, your belief system, your ideologies. And if some of your people, if they don't coincide with that, then maybe you have to ask yourself, is that someone I want to have around in my life? They're the external embodiment or the reflection of you. They're an extension of you. That's why I say birds of a feather flock together. And I look around at my social circle, it's very small, if not non-existent. It's not, I try not to be too picky, but you know, the moment I hear a woman gossip about her boyfriend or about her coworkers or anybody, I don't have time for that. If I'm going to spend my waking hours talking shit about another person, then man, I need more hobbies. If you're not going to be a source of peace in my life, you're going to cause chaos. And you're going to cause me drama. And you're going to be wishy-washy with me because you're indecisive and you can't decide what you want. And I get it, especially when it comes to dating. When it comes to dating, you know, we're all trying to figure out what do we want out of that? You know, if you're dating to marry, right? Because there's dating to fuck, or I guess, excuse my language, and there's, you know, and that's, you know, everyone, I mean, I went through that later on in life, and it's fun, you know, being able to be flirty and not have to, like, think about commitment, and, like, you know, you could just enjoy someone's time and their companionship, and then just, you know, let it fizzle out and just, you know, whatever. Like, that's part of life. I mean, everyone experiences that casual hookup thing. It's part of life. And then you get to a point where you're like, yeah, but I think I want a little bit more, you know. And then if you find that person who gets you, who you're like, I like that person. I want to hang around them more. They make me a better person. They make my mind tinker, and they make my mind think about different things in a different way. And they're there for me. They're always there for me. You know, if I call them, they answer. If I'm scared, they're there. They don't judge me. I don't judge them. We laugh. We hook up. We have, you know, the sex is really good. Like, I have yet to meet someone like that. I haven't met that yet. And maybe maybe God is like, that's supposed to be that way, because I think, you know, God, the universe, God, spirit guides, angels, whatever, saint, whatever you want to call that. I think when you have divine favor or spiritual protection over your life, what you think is like rejection, it's really true. Rejection is God's protection, because like God or the universe can see, I think, what will happen down the line is if you stay with that person. Because sometimes what we think is like meant for us, like you're so adamant about it, and you're like, oh my God, this is so perfect, this is so meant to be. It's usually, when it's too good to be true, it probably is. And relationships aren't that perfect. They're messy and murky and confusing, but also really exciting and fun at the same time. And when it flows, it flows. You can tell when something feels forced and contrived. Same thing with friendships, same thing with a job. And also another thing to note, when someone truly cares about you, they will respect your boundaries. They won't overstep them. A gentleman, if you say, like, there was a guy recently that, I think I mentioned this before, he came over, or I don't know if I invited him over, we were supposed to do grocery shopping, and, you know, I shared with him about what I went through, and he shared with me what he's been through in his life. Not perfect by any means. But I told him, you know, we had plans, this was like a few weeks ago, and we were supposed to meet up on a Friday, and I think it was a Thursday he wanted to meet up, because he's like, I really want to see you. And I was like, yeah, but I'm in such pain. I was like, I really don't feel good right now. I was like, my body hurts. He's like, yeah, but I really want to see you. I was like, okay. You know, and mind you, I was still super, super skinny. I hadn't been eating well, and I was just, because I was scared to eat. And, you know, I didn't want to hurt his feelings. So I was like, you know what, maybe some companionship would do me good. But I looked like a hot mess. I didn't have my hair, I don't know if my hair was done. you know, the apartment had like, I don't know, it just wasn't, not that it was not in bad shape, it just, I didn't feel up to having him come over, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I said yes. I was like, okay, sure. And then he gets here and he ends up Bonnie tinkles on his shoe, and I was like trying to scurry around last minute, you know, trying to go to the bathroom and put myself together, and I think he felt awkward, you know, and also too, he didn't look like exactly like what he looked like in the video FaceTime. And I learned never again, I'm not going to invite anyone over that I have not met already in person somewhere else. And a lot of men now, because, you know, also too, when you've gone through trauma, you're more vulnerable. So I equated, and I don't mind saying this, I equated intimacy or sex with security and safety, because it was nice to be embraced and be in someone's arms. And that was not right. So I had a distorted perception of intimacy, because true intimacy really at the end of the day comes from like when you're in a committed relationship. I think to me the love making and all that is 10 times better when it's like when you really do care about someone. And in the casual connections that I have had, where I had some kind of sort of like feelings for the person, the intimacy was the best with the ones that I felt a strongest like emotional connection or like really strong friendship with, versus just some guy that was like a hookup and it was like, you know. I did a video on that. There's a difference between effing someone and love making to someone, so but anyways, going back to what I was saying about boundaries, I want to say as a true gentleman will respect your boundaries. They won't push you. They won't try to make you do things that you're uncomfortable with. I've had guys ask me, are you okay with if we have a third person watch us? I've had guys ask me, what else? Will you go to a sex club with me? And I'm just like, or like I said, or can I come see you? No, I don't feel good. Oh, okay, I acquiesce. And a gentleman will never do that. Because they were raised the right way. You know, a guy who's like old school will never, ever push you. Like, and if you're a guy listening to this, it's the same thing with a girl. You know, women are ballsy. There are women who literally will henpeck a man and like, you know, dictate. Like they will be so bossy and tell, because there's also nice guys too out there. Like there's how I'm a nice girl, there's guys that are nice guys that let their girlfriend walk all the fuck over them. Like, I'm not kidding. And they run the show. That's not right either. So, having boundaries does not mean that you're a bad person. I've learned that from therapy. It means that because I learned that boundaries teach people how to treat you, or what you tolerate, or what you're tolerant of. And the same thing goes with family too, you know. I've had to establish boundaries with family where I'm like, listen, that's what you want to do, but it's not what I want to do. And my opinion matters. That's why, let me tell you, if you please, you know, if you're a woman especially, make sure you get in a position where you can sustain yourself financially on your own, alone. Because you never want to be at the behest of a man or a family member, because then when you're financially tied or obligated to them, it's their way, it's their finances, their funds. So by default, you have to abide by or adhere to what their demand or what their wishes are. Because you're not the one with the money, they're the ones, you know. But if you get in a situation like me where you get wrongfully like targeted or whatever, and you can't, you know, it's hard to get out of that I mean, try to utilize your resources well, try to gather documentation. Because when you don't have any proof, if you have no proof, like not, if you have very little proof that, because it's plausible deniability, right? It's going to be very, very hard to get any sort of legal aid or counsel, you know. So anyways, I more so just wanted to say that you're not the villain in the story. If you set boundaries for yourself, or you enforce that, and you say, this is the way I wish to be treated. I always like to say, you treat others as you wish to be treated, right? Do unto others as you would do unto yourself, the golden rule. Don't expect others to do that back to you. Be kind, like do it anyways, be kind and be nice, but don't expect people to treat you the way that you treat them, because they probably won't. And don't be afraid to say no. I wish I learned that a long time ago. I would have been a lot happier growing up. I probably would have had better friendships because I would have chosen people who were authentic and who would also choose me. I often gravitated toward the people that needed help or that were wounded, or, you know, and that's okay. Like, but I wanted a friend, I didn't want to be a therapist, you know. And me coming on YouTube and talking like this very candidly, that's not a way to get back at people who are haters. Because haters are going to hate. Haters are going to talk shit. Haters are never going to... Narcissists, they never will see it your way. Because a narcissist can't. They're incapable of that. They lack remorse. They lack guilt. They will never take accountability for their actions. So it's always, you're the problem. It's your fault. I didn't start it. You started it. You're too sensitive, you're too whatever, you know. Never apologize for choosing yourself and choosing self-respect. And that goes for anything, for dating, jobs, you know, relationships, family, friendships. But you will become the bad person. you will be deemed the villain in someone's story because you just became harder to manipulate. You got smarter. And people don't like that. You're a lot easier to control when you're dumbfounded or, you know, in the dark about things. And also, too, that takes time. That takes learned experiences, you know, lived experiences to build up that thick skin and build up that emotional intelligence and knowledge. But there's nothing wrong with demanding respect. And I don't mean like being a bitch about it and be like, I demand respect, you need to... No, it's about doing it in a quiet, understated way. Like we say, understated elegance. You don't need to be boastful or loud and demonstrative to do it. You say no. Say thank you so much, and you say no. There's for me, like for example, when I'm doing the dating apps and stuff, because I'm like, oh, I like to socialize, I like to see who's out there. There's so many, and Chicago's so huge. You would think dating in Chicago would be very easy. No, it is so hard. And these people put like their biographies are like so minuscule. I'm like, these people, what do I go off of, a picture? You know, but even so, like if it's been a day, let's say it's been like one day and there was some conversation, but then a day goes by and then another day goes by, that's it. I will delete the conversation because I go, I don't have time for this. Because obviously if that person's not making time to, you know, sustain the conversation and ask questions and reciprocate, then I'm not going to entertain it because they're probably entertaining someone else. which is okay. But like when you're getting to know different people and you have different conversations going, you're trying to sift and sort through and go, hey, which one fits for me? Which person do I feel most compatible with? Because some people are going to feel compatible and other ones there's going to be no compatibility and no chemistry. So that's another reason why I talk to multiple people at once. Because you never know, things ebb and flow and shift and change and whatnot. So, anyways, don't ever apologize for setting boundaries for yourself. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you evil or selfish or a villain. It makes you smart. And smart women are a lot harder to control and manipulate than dumb, needy, petty women. You never want to be the woman that's, and trust me, I take it back, because when I was nervous about things, because I was legitimately scared for my safety, I did kind of like latch onto people and try to find, safety and security in some individuals, and I kind of hounded them about it, and I was like, I need you here, like, can you please come, like, help me, like, stay with me or whatever, because I'm nervous, and because it is hard being a solo female and living in whatever this whole thing is or was or whatever. It's very hard. It's very scary, especially if there's drugs involved and God knows what else. It's very scary. But I put my faith in God, and I'm like, you can do hard things. And to be a woman doing it alone, when no one like, I'm telling you, I'm not kidding when I say I did not, my parents might have been there to some extent, but there's only so much that what I needed was legal aid and law enforcement to step up to the plate and do what they know is right. But very rarely will you have, a majority dictates that, like, a lot of people who are in law enforcement, unless you're not physically accosted and hurt, they're not going to take it as seriously. And I don't know how emotional abuse or psychological abuse is handled as like a crime, but I know that that did happen to me. And what I didn't need was a man to, lie to me about situations and things, or gaslight me to think otherwise. I may not be law enforcement, and I'm not a lawyer, but I do have emotional intelligence, and I'm not a dingbat, or I'm not dim-witted. I got my master's in developmental psychology. I got into occupational therapy school. I don't know the DSM-5 or whatever, I don't know, like the back of my hand, but I did study that stuff. And I know how to assess people's, behaviors, nonverbal and verbal, and do kind of like psychosocial assessment. So, and then you add the heightened intuition on top of that, forget about it. So, you win some, you lose some, but ultimately, never, ever, 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 ever apologize. Especially, and one thing I want to reiterate is that people that are targeted, we have, not to say a chip on our shoulder, but we could be very easily triggered, because the hurt runs deep, the betrayal runs deep, because communities that you once thought had your back turn their back on you. People lie about you, they trick you, and that sucks, especially if you're a good person. And what do I mean by good? I can sit there and conceptualize good and break it down and define that. Maybe good-mannered, good-natured, honest, ethical, polite, considerate, kind, congenial, friendly, warm, lawful. So, my thing is now, I'm not going to ever apologize and if I don't smile at you, it's not because, I want to be a bitch to you. It's just because maybe I don't feel like smiling, or, because not everyone deserves that. I used to say, oh, everyone deserves a smile. Not really. I think reserve that for the people. Because if one thing I learned too is that if you are constantly giving, of yourself to everybody, your well is going to run dry. You're going to deplete yourself of the energy, because we all have our energy reserves, right? You're going to deplete yourself of the energy that you need to put back into yourself so that you can operate and function as a normal everyday human in society. But if you're constantly like me, I'm the kind of person that if I could help everybody, I would. If I could, if I had $1 million, a gajillion dollars, I would get every homeless person off the street. I would clean them up, give them a haircut, try to give them adequate housing, and give them a vocational advisor, maybe mental health support, physical, medicinal support, and that's what I would do. And then I would clean up our streets and plant more greenery. And maybe more ponds and, like bird baths and flower gardens and stuff that people can sit and like enjoy their time in. But that's just me. But no, I'm not going to ever apologize again for choosing myself. Because I give and you 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 give. And then, not to say you expect something in return. You never want to do anything to get something in return. You just want to do it because it's the right thing to do. But what I've noticed is that the more that you give, the more people expect back from you. And they'll take it freely. They'll freeload off of your energy spiritually. They'll spiritually siphon you. If you've heard of the term energy vampire, that's what happens. Unfortunately, it took me 33 or 34 years to finally come to that conclusion and go, I can't do that anymore. And you're not selfish, you're not mean for sticking up for yourself and speaking your truth, whether it be on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, because everyone has a story. And I've said this before, Morgan Harper Nichols said, let the story of the mountains you've climbed be someone else's survival guide. And that's why I'm doing this, because there might be a girl out there one day who I always say is in college in her dorm, or maybe is in high school, and even though this video is not really made for kids or tweens or teens, but let's say they don't have the guidance and they are going through something hard and they don't know how to establish boundaries, and they come across my video by chance and I'm on their feed and they go, oh my God, this girl, she was a virgin until 32 and she, waited, and then she went through all this stuff, and, she got stalked or hacked or whatever, and then it was hard to prove, and then people tried to denounce her or try to frame her out as crazy and bipolar, and they scared her shitless and tortured her, and she still retains some semblance of kindness. Man, if she can go through that, then I can go through what I'm going through as well. Some girls maybe get pregnant at 17. Some girls are teen moms. And they have to struggle. Do you get an abortion, or do you keep the baby? What do? Do you put it up for adoption, or do you raise it with your, there's a lot of people, there's so many things that can happen. Or maybe there's a girl that, has a high school boyfriend and they're in their senior year, or they're 18, whatever, and he, maybe she's not happy in the relationship, or she wants to explore other things, or maybe he broke up with her, or maybe he's pressuring her to, get married, or I don't know, have baby. I don't know what people are going through, but, maybe I can give someone hope to say, hey, I'm not ready for that right now. I want to go to law school, or I want to go to culinary school, or, you might want to go to law school, but I want to do ballet. I don't know. 18-year-old me, that's never happened to me. I never experienced that, but you never know. I just want to say that it's not, you're not mean and you're not bad for sticking up for yourself. And when people don't get their way, and when people can't find dirt on you, they have nothing nice to say, they will try to frame you or scapegoat you or lie about you and make up shit about you that's not true. And they'll try to discredit you throughout society or communities that once had your back. Now people will be questioning your intentions. They'll be questioning your motives. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And don't be a mean girl. But also don't let people walk all over you. There's a fine line. There's a fine line between being like this bitch, like Regina George kind of vibe, and there's also like being the... I'm trying to think of a good character that depicts that really well. Like, for example, a good example of that, of a character, like an archetype, a really good female archetype. No, you know what? I don't know, because I was going to say Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games. But I think, you know, the other one, the Shailene Woodley's character, what's her name? Beatrice Pryor in Divergent. If you haven't seen that series, it's really good. Because there's books too. But that's a good character development, because she was from abnegation. She was very like, do good, follow the rules, very like blasé, wearing all gray, you know, not say very conformist type of energy. And then she slowly starts to gain confidence when she's put in these like circumstances that require fearlessness and strength, and she starts to come into her own after she joins the Dauntless people, whatever, and kind of get more rebellious, defiant group. And but she possesses all the qualities of, like, she's endearing, she's empathetic, she's strong, and but she's not so demonstrative that she's a leader, but she takes morality and ethics very seriously, and integrity. So I almost relate to that kind of character, because it's like, I will, if you put a dog in front of me, I will melt in front of, you know, I love dogs and cats. I love animals, but then also too, if I see someone getting hurt, or if I witness someone being mistreated, I will definitely speak up for that person, or I will try to right people's wrongs, or amend a situation that I witnessed where someone was getting hurt. So, you know, anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. And I was trying to upload another video. I did a get ready with me video. I don't know if it's going to go through, because I was trying to get it to go, but you know, it's a really long video too, and I'm like, I don't know who the heck is going to you know, watch that. God bless the person's soul who watches a 2-hour video of me. But you know, if it doesn't load, then it doesn't load. I'm not gonna stress over it. Is it even, it went up 1%, went up to 14%. It was 13% before an hour ago. Now it's 14%. So I will upload this one. But again, I hope my words help somebody. I hope it gives you some food for thought. I am by no means perfect. I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. But I have gone through a lot the past few years of my life. Kind of lost everything, too. Professions and careers that were near and dear to my heart. Certifications that I had that, because I've been trying to survive, I couldn't focus on. And a lot of people will tell me, oh, you need to get over it, you need to move on and move past it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you tried doing that when you feel like you almost got brutally murdered or killed or assassinated. You know, that's sometimes what it feels like, but I'm not, that's a very strong word, and I don't know why anyone would want to do that to me anyways. But I will say, to try to, you know, stay humble, be kind, and if anyone tries to frame you for anything, you know, have your just not say arsenal, but like have your not arsenal, it's not the right word. It's a lot easier to defend yourself when you have proof. Like hardcore, like tangible proof, because if you don't, then you're gonna come up short, and you're gonna look like the person that's just, you know, speaking whatever, you know. When there's proof, it's a lot easier to handle. When there's no proof, it's much more difficult. So But more importantly, you're not a sinner for speaking up for yourself. You aren't guilty for saying no and establishing boundaries with people. And those who really care about you and support you will respect those boundaries. They will never push your boundaries. They will never gaslight you. They will respect you. And if they don't respect you, then maybe you have to reevaluate their position in your life. And let me tell you, yeah, you may be alone. You may not have as many friends because of it, but you know what? When you're in solitude, you learn so much about yourself. When you sit with yourself, because how many people can truly be by themselves? Like if you say, oh, but I'm not an introvert, I can't do that. There's a lot of clarity that comes from, being in solitude. And for majority of my life, I've not so much been a recluse, but I do like I enjoy my own company. Because once I get out there, I'm like, oh God. I'm like, no, God. I'm like, please, no. You see the women in the fishnet tights and the polka dots and the tetas hanging out and the guys, vaping on the side and smoking cigarettes, and you're like, I can't do this. I tell myself I can do it, and you don't want to judge people, and everyone's walking their journey of life. They're on a different point, and they may not see the world the way that I do. They may not be like into spirituality stuff and talk about angels and spirit. It's just I see the world differently. So hi, baby. So it comes with time. And but I did want to come in here and say that, like, the whole mean girl thing, that's not my thing. And if I call people out on their shit, it's probably because they probably deserved it. Because I'm really nice. Like, I'm very, very nice. So if I cut you off or I call you out on someone, it's probably because you deserved it. So, and also people too, triggering people. That's another thing I noticed with gang stalking and targeting. People will purposely try to trigger you, whether that's with a trigger word or a situation to try to provoke you and get you to react. But you know what? Look at it like exposure therapy. If it still triggers you, that means that there's something unresolved within you that you need to fix. So take it in stride and try to, work on that, and bit by bit, piece by piece, it'll all make sense. It'll all come together. But if someone legitimately does, compromise your safety or threaten your safety, then that's when you should take legal action or, try to compile resources and things together, because it is really hard when you don't have any proof and stuff. It's very hard, because intuition, it's true, intuition won't hold up in a court of law. You have to get like a PI and a detective to like help you, but that costs money. So anyways, keep your boundaries. They teach people how to treat you. Demand self-respect, and you do that by declining certain invitations to things, being a little bit more pickier and choosier about who you spend your time with, and what you talk about with that person. And never apologize for being yourself. And right now it may seem hard, like it may feel like a never-ending story, and that you'll never amount to the success of what you want in your life. But at the same time, like, there's immense growth in adversity, and you can find there, simplicity is important too. I learned that sometimes just living a simple life and engaging in really what seems like mundane activities, grandma activities, sometimes is what's the best remedy for your soul and for healing, to facilitate healing. So, yeah. And not everyone's going to understand you. Not everyone's going to get you. That's just, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I've already come to terms with this. You have to live with it. When you're in the checkout line in the grocery store, not everyone's going to look back and be like, hey, nice to meet you. You know, not everyone's going to hold the door open for you. Not everyone, the cashiers at the grocery store may not smile at you. Don't take offense to it. You don't know what they're going through. If you're lucky enough to meet someone in your life, whether it's a friend or a love interest, or, you know, and they really do love you and honor you and value you, please do not let them go. Do not do anything to jeopardize that relationship, because one day you may really lean on them and need them, and you don't want to do anything to jeopardize it. And hopefully you would offer the same sentiments to them if they were in a pickle. You know, if they were in a tight spot where, you know, they needed extra support in their life, hopefully you can offer that to them. To you know, have a friend, you have to be a friend. You know, you can't expect to have friends in your life if you're not a friend to a friend yourself. So remember that. To have a friend, you have to be a friend. Otherwise, it's a one-sided relationship, and that's not a friendship. I don't know what that is. So, and when people want to talk shit about you, go about it how you want. You can say, oh, let them talk. Unless it's something that really, like, can ruin your reputation, that's, like, detrimental, that can keep you from getting hired at jobs, then yeah, then speak up about it. For the most part, when you're silent, from what I've learned, is that you carry a lot more power, because then you don't tell people what you're thinking. They don't know your next move. You become more mysterious and elusive, if anything. Especially in gang stalking, they say to make sure that you're unpredictable, you know. But for me, I'm probably so predictable. I'm like, fuck it. I don't really know, you know. Like, there's only so much. I can't adjust my life to you know, try to survive weirdo people being creepers and trying to get in on my life. You know, like, there's only so much you could do. You just, you know, you do the best that you can. Anything else? So yeah. But if you are lucky enough to have at least one person in your life that you can call a solid friendship, or even a relationship, a partnership, you know, do everything you can to sustain and maintain that, because that's a rarity these days. True, you know, meaningful, sentimental, formidable connections and relationships that are based off of mutual trust and support, that have a solid foundation, that is such a rarity these days. So if you have that, keep that. I have yet to really honestly find that, and I tell myself, am I defective? Am I deficient in some way? Am I being too picky? I don't think so. Some people just don't jive with my vibe, and that's okay. And hopefully, and I don't mean vibe like in a derogatory sense, I just mean like in a, you know, like they don't jive with who I am as a person. So I'm learning, you know, the more to love yourself more, and the more you love yourself, because you can't love anyone else until you truly love yourself. So the more you love yourself, the more you can love someone else. So I'm trying to sift and sort through that situation as best as I can. And this is, mind you, this is while being targeted or whatever, and having people do weird stuff to my body and my food, and I tell myself, how the heck am I gonna go through this? You know, I'm like, how the heck am I gonna live through this, or, you know, manifest a real partnership with a man who's not gonna, you know, hurt me or trick me or dupe me or whatever. And I go, but you know what? I would never trick someone. You know, I don't plan on ever doing that to someone. So I'm like, if I don't plan on doing it, then surely there's a counterpart who won't do it to me. And the same thing for friendships as well, you know, because like I said, to have a friend, you have to be a friend first to that other person, or to other people. So in due time, you know, everything takes time. So I'm hoping that I don't know. that I slowly but surely, and that's another thing too, you go by geographical location. Like, I may not be in the best location to make, I mean, you would think you would be, because Chicago's so huge and vast that, like, it's such a big city that there's so many people who move here and there's opportunities, but it's different when you're, my veins are so prominent. Anyways, I'm sorry, I got distracted. But I also want to move somewhere where my soul feels at peace. I can't really say I feel at peace here, but in due time. So, hope that helps somebody. And sometimes when you think you're not being mean, you could be being mean, but you never know. So the best way to figure that out is ask someone directly. Or if someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I didn't like what you said, that was insensitive, then you say, oh, okay, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that. But if you ever any doubt, ask it out. When in doubt, ask it out. Like, ask the person or thing. Say, hey, does this sound mean? Was I being condescending or judgmental? And then you'll get your answer, because, you know, you may be perceiving one thing one way, but someone else might be perceiving it the other way. And then you may be taking it totally out of context or blowing it out of proportion, and when it could be just something really minute and small. You never know. You know, so, yeah. Hope that helps somebody. And, life is a work in progress, and nobody's perfect, so don't try to be. Easier said than done. And just show up and try to do your best, but also love yourself enough to be willing to put your foot down for things that you know you're not tolerant of. And it's okay not to smile at everyone. You know, for me, I'm like, but I want to be nice to everyone. Whether it's like the deli person or the cashier. No, you don't. So, on that note, since there's the sirens going off, I'm going to pause it there because they get very, very loud. Very loud. So, happy Friday, because it is Friday. It's 6:50 p.m. Central Standard Time here. And I will see. I don't know if the get ready, it's at 14%. I might just delete it. I don't know. I was recording it because I was, you know, the get ready with me thing, but I'm like, I don't know if that's my thing. Sometimes I do it because it's like, you know, showing how I get ready in the morning, but also being very candid and straightforward is kind of my niche too. So we shall see. I'm grateful to still be alive. I'm grateful Bonnie is still here, and hopefully we will continue to be here for several more months. I pray to God. I hope. I don't know. We'll see. God bless. Peace.